As promised in my previous video on my new mobile workbench with a table saw and router table, I've made this new video to show you how to adjust the table saw in order to make precise cuts. I'll start by showing how to adjust a table saw. It's the first thing we should do before making any cuts with a saw. Normally, when you receive them from the manufacturer, they're very poorly calibrated. First off, we should make sure the blade is perpendicular to the work table. To do this, we can use a simple square or a digital angle gauge. We should verify whether it's perpendicular or whether we should tilt the blade towards one side or the other. These kinds of bench saws typically have a couple of bolts on the front so that the blade can be adjusted. In this case, I have to loosen one of the bolts and turn a round metal blade which acts as a reference stop so that the blade tilt can be adjusted. After verifying to which side I have to tilt the blade, I loosen the screw and turn the metal blade. I tighten the screw and check if it's perpendicular again. We have to repeat this operation as many times as necessary until the blade is perpendicular to the table. The method to calibrate or set the blade tilt to 45 degrees is the same. In my case, you can see I had adjusted it already. The next step is to ensure the blade is parallel to the work table's miter gauge slots for the table saw. To do this, we can also use a square or a caliper. We have to measure the distance between the slots and the front and back of the blade. I'm going to use a caliper with a dial indicator to which I've attached a homemade jig so that I can insert it into the slot. On the market, you can find similar ones. After raising the blade to its maximum height, I make sure the blade is parallel to the slot. In my case, I have to move the back of the blade about 0.6 of a millimeter towards the left. To do that, I have to loosen the two bolts under the back of the work table. I'm not going to loosen them completely, just enough so that I can move this part of the saw, which secures the blade and the motor to the frame by tapping it. I'll use a piece of plywood and a hammer to avoid damaging any parts. Once again, I check if the blade is parallel to the slot, and if that's not the case, we have to repeat the process as many times as necessary. Similarly, I'm going to check if the fence is parallel to the slot. I insert the dial indicator in one of the slots and verify the distance between the fence and the slot in the front and back of the work table. In my case, I have to move the back of the fence to the right. To do this, I loosen the fence bolt a little and carefully hammer it into place. Just like before, I check once more that there's the same distance on both ends of the fence, and whether it's necessary to repeat the process. This saw has 3 possible fence positions. We have to repeat the process for each of these. Finally, we have to adjust the fence indicator. It's as easy as cutting a random workpiece to size, measure the resulting piece with a tape measure or caliper, and adjust the indicator to this measurement. If you use a caliper, you will adjust it more precisely. You can also measure the distance between the blade and the fence with a tape measure.